A lot lately about how I'm divinely guided. And it was very confusing when it first happened to me a long time ago. Well, I've been divinely guided my whole life, and you are too. But I just didn't get it. And when I started to spiritually awaken in 2015, I still didn't get it. But I get it now, and I am literally guided every day. So I wanted to share. What is divine guidance? Hey, it's just all the messages or coincidences that seem to happen that they provide us. Your guides, guardian angels, God, whoever you want to believe, you're communicating with. Trust me, they're communicating with you. And I didn't realize it, but uh, I'm divinely guided every day. I get these messages every day, and it's a great thing. So I figured I'd share some of the more profound instances of this divine guidance with you. First of all, I started thinking when I first spiritually woke in 2015. I think about how I didn't know anything, and as I'm going along, a couple of years ago, 2023, 2024, I started thinking about um, how can I fix the world? How can I help the world? Because the world is fucked up out there, in case you haven't noticed. How can I fix the world? How can I help fix the world? And that's when, uh, if you accept it or not, I accept it fully. A female came into my life, and it was a short relationship. It was nice. It was good. But she came into my life for one thing, to bring me one thing, and that was to re-expose me to Netflix for some reason. I didn't understand why. I didn't understand what was going on. All I knew was now I had to get Netflix because she had to have Netflix. So I got Netflix. And when she wasn't around, I started looking at all these documentaries about how fucked up the world is. How are you going to fix some of these problems? You're not. And that's the conclusion that I came to. And this is what led me to the new earth, or reinforced that I'm being led to the new earth. Because there's no fixing a lot of these things in society. Pull up some of those documentaries about trying to fix the world, trying to, fix our oceans, trying to unpollute the world. It's not going to happen. You're not going to do it. And I had to watch these documentaries, and yeah, you might say the algorithm just kind of came up, but yeah, that algorithm taught me a lot of things. It got to know what I needed to know, and you're not going to fix this world. You stay with this old earth, you're gonna experience fear and negativity the rest of your life, and it's not going to be good. But you come to the new earth, and all will be well. The next thing, the next instance of divine guidance, in my opinion, or another one, was when I was thinking about how soul contracts and how people incarnate many times and they don't realize it. And people are out there and they are out in the world treating every negative thing like it's the end of the world. When negative things happen to you, they should be treated as a an evolutionary catalyst to correct you back to your soul path, back to your where you're supposed to go and who you're supposed to be. But people don't treat it that way. So, you know, that everybody treats everything negative that happens in their life that they chose to happen to them so that they could learn certain lessons in this incarnation and have a productive life. But people don't realize it when it comes around. And they treat the negative things in their life as though they're just so desperate and serious and, oh, my life is over. No, you treat those negative things like an evolutionary catalyst. You get off your ass and you make the changes and you embrace it. So I was thinking a lot about this and how I could get that across in a video. And Uh, the very next morning, I ran across and I don't study near death experiences anymore. That was a 2015 thing, but this happened to me in 2026. So I watched it. And this woman had a near death experience in Iraq during the war. And she was traveling in a armored vehicle, and it was blown up, and she had a near death experience. And she went back and met with her guides, and they said, no, it's not your time. You still have more to do, so you got to go back. But your Humvee blew up, so we have to come up with some injuries for you. And they were looking at what possible injuries to send her back with. And she was a part of this. They were there, but it was all just a collective consciousness of them making the decision of what to do for her injury to return to this world. And the first thing they thought of was, well, how about if we just say your left arm is gone now? And what would your life, they were giving her a glimpse of what your life's going to be like without your left arm. And they were all laughing about it, her included. She said it was hilarious. They were all laughing about it. And then they gave her a scenario of a missing leg. And then they gave her another scenario of something else. I can't remember what it was. And they were laughing about it. And it just touched me that everything I've read is true. All this out here in the world is so empty. It's just so empty and meaningless. We came here to learn certain lessons. So let's learn them and get the fuck out of here, okay? But it let me know that this is one of the ways that maybe people could understand that this is all a production. This is all your production. You created it all. This is just, it's a play. It's a game. And we just came here to learn our lessons. So learn them. Learn those lessons. But that near-death experience helped me get that point across to people who just take life way too seriously. And a lot of times there is a waiting list up in heaven for souls who want to incarnate into damaged bodies, diseased bodies, some sort of cripple for your life. You learn a lot of lessons that way. And that's a difficult life. I don't suggest that incarnation to anybody, but you go through this with your guides and you figure it all out. And that particular video just kind of led me to the fact that to be able to get it across to people that life isn't so desperate and serious. Don't take everything so serious. Another incident of divine guidance. My girl and I were talking on the phone one night, and we were talking about how about the Mandela effect, and how the life of Nelson Mandela, the Mandela effect. We had a lot of questions. We didn't have any answers. We had a lot of conspiracy theories about it, but we didn't have any answers. We spent an hour talking on the phone about it. Couldn't get anything really established. It was just a conversation. And the next morning, Sunday morning, I show up at church, and there's a 45-minute sermon on the life of Nelson Mandela and how the Mandela effect kind of works and things like that. Basically, the Mandela effect we're moving to the new earth, and what's happening is we're jumping timelines all over the place, and that's kind of the Mandela effect. Don't let it freak you out. It just is. But the very next morning after that conversation with my girl, I got the answers. I got it at church. And I just thought, I sat there and I thought, yeah, another instance of divine guidance. All I have to do is ask a question and the answers come. So Another instance is my reading, and I'm constantly divinely guided through my readings. Okay, so I read for at least an hour and a half every day of my life, every day. And prior to my spiritual awakening, I hadn't read a book from cover to cover in 20 years. I blow through books now like they're nothing. And I read big, thick books that I would have never touched, 1,000 pages. And sometimes I just ponder something, and I'm confused about something. And all I have to do is be confused. I don't even have to go into meditation or prayer and ask God anymore. I just have to have a question in my mind. And it seems like the very next morning, it's answered. I open my 1,000-page book to my bookmark where I left off on page 745 yesterday, and I turn the page, and there's the answer. And I'm reading about what I pondered yesterday. Okay, one instance that comes to mind that's the most prominent was with my narcissist. I did not realize that you don't confront a narcissist with truth about their manipulation and their lies and things like that. No. Facts don't mean anything to your narcissist, so keep that shit to yourself. You don't confront them about those things, even when they're true, even when they're fact. It causes narcissistic injury and narcissistic mortification. I had this huge fight with my narcissist at one time. And I went home that night and I thought, man, I will never bring that shit up again. I just didn't fucking get it. I didn't know what had happened. I wasn't, I just, my head was ready to explode. I didn't understand what had happened that night and why that fight got so intense. Well, it's called narcissistic injury and narcissistic mortification. You don't call them out. The very next morning, I got in my car, so confused. I didn't know what the hell was going on in my life. And I just pulled up I was listening to Professor Sam Vaknin back then. I highly recommend him to everybody. I consider him the father of modern narcissism. He wrote Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. It's an excellent book, and he is the best. And I pulled him up, and the next video that came up was narcissistic injury and narcissistic mortification. And I had no idea what the hell it was. I just clicked on it, put my earbuds in, and listened to it all the way on my hour-long drive. And I thought, oh my God, that answers my question. What did you do? Why did you confront your narcissist with truth? That's the last thing on earth you do. You will pay for months after that. I thought I loved her at the time, but yeah, you can't love narcissists. It doesn't work. But to have that answer and to be given that answer the very next morning, I just had this sleepless night. I was so confused. But it was right there. It was given to me the very next morning, and I loved it. Another thing, as far as my readings are concerned, I thought it was about time, after 10 years of being spiritually awakened, that I explore past lives and go try to get hypnotherapy. I had 2 hypnotherapy sessions, and the first one didn't produce jack shit, and the second one was totally confusing because it was just my grandmother it was actually in black and white. It was my grandmother dressed in her 50s with those 50s glasses on. She had her apron on. She was in the kitchen, and she told me to eat better. And I thought, wow, what a waste, 2 hypnotherapy sessions. Maybe I'm not spiritually awakening. Maybe I'm not able to be hypnotized. Maybe all this is fucking bullshit. And then the very next morning, I opened my book. It was a Dolores Cannon book. I opened my book to page 562, where I left off yesterday. And it starts talking about how reincarnation is not important anymore. Past lives are not important anymore. We are at the most important part in the history of Earth. And that's the creation of the new Earth. So none of that shit matters. And then I wondered, well, you can't go to the new Earth with karma. And I'm wondering, I was hoping in the past life regression that I would be given some clue as to what karma I came here to clear. And as soon as I started to ponder that, I turned the page, and there it was. People who aren't shown past lives don't have any karma. They've released their karma. And I've done a very good job. Nobody owes me an apology for anything. I've forgiven everyone, even my evil narcissist who tried to destroy my life. These are soulmates. These are soul contracts. And I'm so thankful for every experience because it's what I needed. So, in thinking that I wasn't being invited to my past lives, and by the way, I've been invited in other ways through meditation. However, past lives don't matter. And it was divine guidance, in my opinion, that I just have to think it. And I turn the page, and there's the answer. You can say it was a coincidence all along. Well, if that's the case, my life is just a series of coincidences since birth. I didn't always believe in them. I didn't always follow them. I didn't always understand any of it. But, it's there. So in studying, the past life phenomenon and things like that, I realized that we're just here to learn lessons and learn those lessons, move to the new Earth. Don't learn them, stay with the old Earth, live in fear and negativity. I'm choosing the new Earth. A lot of people, look at angel numbers and, they see on the clock that it's, 3:33 or 4:44. And they look at it as a divine guidance. Let me clarify how that works because I too experience this. Sometimes I'm tied to time. I have appointments. I have appointments. I have to leave the house at a certain time. I'm leaving the house at 4:45. Well, guess what? I've looked at the clock 10 times in the last 15 minutes and I saw 4:44. That's not divine guidance, okay? You just looked at the clock. It just happened, okay? But there are times I've noticed when I am not tied to time. I am simply living in the present. I have no interest in what time it is, yet I'm guided to look at the clock for some reason, and there's a 555. And that's when I go into the angel numbers, I start looking at it. So if you want to believe in your angel numbers, yeah, sure, believe in them. But if you're obsessed about time and looking at the clock all the time, that don't consider that divine guidance. The bottom line here is we're all divinely guided. The problem is a lot of times we don't trust those instincts, that inner knowing. We trust whatever society tells us on the outside and we kind of go that route. No, I've made every mistake in the book in my life, and that's when life just jack slaps you upside the head and nothing ever works out. When I trust that guidance, when I trust that inner knowing, when I trust that instinct, I never go wrong. It's 100% effective in my opinion. So what I found is all you have to do is ask, religious people, the Bible tells you all you got to do is pray about it. Pray about it. Ask God. I almost don't even have to ask anymore. I just have to think it. I just have to be confused by it. And somehow it freaking shows up within 24 hours and I have my answer. So there's my story about divine guidance. You can say it's all bullshit if you want to. No, it's not. It leads me every day. By the way, you don't wake up every morning and just get divine guidance. What do I do this morning? No, be a Buddhist. Chop wood and carry water. Just go about your day. The divine guidance will come. You'll see it and you'll know. Good luck.